Right, I think we're live now. So, 1 second. Still showing waiting on. Yeah, it's live on here now. Anyway,
okay, good.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Phrankleen. This is another live session. This is basically we're talking about finance today. We're talking about developing habits of the wealthy, right?
That's right. Yep.
So let's see who is online. If you can see me, I think there's about 4 or 5 people online. If you can see me, you can hear me, hit the like button, hit the like button. So I've got a guest with me who is basically a financial expert, and I've brought her on, and she will be sharing with us some very helpful information. So I'll let her run through. She'll introduce herself first. I'll let her run through the topics. You know, I might interject occasionally. Then at the end, we'll have a brief questions and answers, session, and then we call it a day. So let's go. Introduce yourself, please.
Sounds like a plan. Hi, everyone. So my name is Orlu-orlu, and I am originally from Nigeria. I've been in the UK about 12 years now. And
Right.
Phrankleen, can I just say, I love what you're doing. I'm sure it's no secret that I have been watching you for some time. I mean, that's how I knew you were looking for people to come and have a chat. And I like where you're going right now, because we need this sort of stuff with everything that's going on. So first of all, absolute kudos to you. Well done for doing that.
Thank you.
Good. So, for me, growing up in Nigeria, I mean, we all know what it's like. My parents are from River State. I grew up in Warri Delta State, and I grew up around the time where there was that crisis between the Ishakiri and the River State. I have an echo. I don't know why. Around the time where
hold on.
there was that
might be me. Hold on. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Good. That's gone. Yeah. Okay. And so sort of quite early on, it became clear that money was something that was going to be quite a big factor. And if the difference was clear when you had it, this is when you didn't. And so from about my teenage years, I sort of got my foot into the whole personal development side of things, and reading books. I think that was one of the best things that I did, because it gave that exposure to how things could be different. People who looks like me but who had things slightly different, and studying what are their habits, what is it that they've done to make that difference. And so that's how we went down this path, and I've been knee deep in it for over 10 years. So even though my professional background is in the sciences, money finance is something that's sort of always been there. Yeah.
Great stuff.
That's me.
Right. So developing habits of the wealthy, right? Which is a very nice, interesting topic. It's for me personally, I believe finance sits in the core part of our lives, if you'd agree with me.
So, yeah,
and
absolutely.
One thing I've also discovered coming up is, and it's like a plague that affects a lot of us. You realize that most people within the Black community, that most people grew up without financial knowledge or financial sort of direction.
It just wasn't talked about. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and then you find yourself getting your 20s and your 30s, you're going through life, and you're just pretty much, a lot of people just make blunders. You don't know what to do, what decisions. Even, I realized recently, I was talking to someone. I said, look, man, when we talk about investments, buy land, buy stocks, buy bonds, whatever, right? If you don't even have a rudimentary understanding of how that works, if that's not even in your system to start with, to then be able to gravitate towards and embrace that idea, to realize that, if I do this long term, 10 years time, 5 years time, this is going to do this, you're not going to appreciate it. It feels like an uphill battle. And a lot of time, from people that I've spoken to personally, it's like too much information to comprehend. They get frustrated, and people just be like, you know what, man, leave it. And then it's a vicious cycle, because then you grow older, then you need money, you haven't got savings, all sorts of bad decisions.
You don't teach your kids, and so they go and do the same thing again. Yeah.
Don't have financial knowledge, they go into life, and
Exactly.
So,
I think you've nailed it. I think you've nailed it there.
so talk
That's
to me.
absolutely it. And people end up living from hand to mouth and just never knowing how to come off that. And so what I'm hoping to do is just sort of give like a blueprint. I mean, of course,
Right.
not everybody will be at a point where they can do everything, but just something to sort of start with and then build it up from there. That's what I'm hoping to do. Um, Sort of
Let's go.
in my sort of coaching, it's mostly women that I work with at the moment, and it's really that foundational getting a plan in place. So I mean, going back to, you know, starting that wealth means different
Yeah.
things for different people. What I might consider wealth might not be what you consider wealth, and there's different types of it as well. It's not just about money. There's health and all sorts of things. So whether I'm working with people or right here, one of the first things I'll say is, first of all, you need your vision, your
Right.
plan. First
Mm.
of all, what is it that will be success for you? What is it that's going to be when you hit that, right, I've done it. Because if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a goal, it's a non-starter. If you don't know where you're going, you'll just end up sort of anywhere. So that is the first thing I'll say. Take some time, put it on paper. Sometimes if we have a lot of things running around in our head, you just need to put it on paper. Look at it. What is the plan? What is the goal? If you know where you want to go, first of all, that is absolutely what I'm going to say to start with. And then we get onto the spending plan, the budget, whatever you want to call it, which is my area of specialty, which is what I love to do. Is it's essentially, it is telling your money where to go, telling your
Mm.
money what to do before it comes. Money that isn't told where to go, it goes out the window. Before the
Absolutely.
end of the month, you're out. So it's sitting down before the money comes in. What are the essentials? Having that on paper and seeing where that money is going to go there. Um,
Right.
Once you have that planned, so starting with the necessities, I don't know if you're familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you start at the bottom, starting with the food and clothing. So those things that absolutely have to happen, otherwise you're out on the streets or things are really. So having those taken care of first, because that's one of the key things about having a budget. You don't want to end up in a situation where the basic necessities are not covered, and we see that happening. And it doesn't need to be that way if you have a plan. Now, for some people, they might realize that they actually need to earn more, and we will
Mm.
come to that. But having a plan in the first, the people who are wealthy, and I'm not talking of people who win the lottery and they lose it all in 1 year, 2 years, but I mean people that have money for generations that they can pass down. I promise you, they have a plan for their money. They know where it's going. They know what they're doing with it, and we can
Yeah.
tap into that, getting into the habit of having a spending plan. And I'm going to focus on the word habit because it's something that you do consistently. It's not
Mm.
something you're going to do once and forget it. The key is in the consistency. That's
Mm.
what's going to make the difference. So it's about habit, 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 habit. Keeping to the budget. Yes, I know, House of Coffee. Yes, yes. And that's one of the key areas that I touch on as well. So sort of going back to my notes. So in terms of that, right, Kathy, I have a training, and Phrankleen and I have talked about this. I have a training that I put together in terms of how to create a budget and tips on how to stick to it. I will put a link to that somewhere after that, because that's very detailed. That sort of goes through the whole thing. You can get that for free, absolutely costs nothing. I'll put a link to that. You can get that. So the next point is, people who are wealthy, they know that money has at least four purposes, at least
Right.
four things you do with it. So you can
Mm.
either spend it, you can save it, you can invest it, or you can donate it. And a lot of people only use money for maybe one or two things maximum. Money can be so much more than that. So it's recognizing that there's all these jobs that my money can do for me, and I can put it where I want it to go. I can tell it where to go. So the first step is recognizing that your money can be all of those things to you. So if you think about it as if you're a farmer, because I know my mom used to plant stuff. I never had green fingers. I tried, but I kill plants all the time. But she's good at that. So if you think about it in terms of money, is a seed. If you have a farmer that plants stuff, harvests it, if they eat it all and leave nothing to plant for the next season, they're out of work. They're out of business. They're done for. So if you think about it in terms of seed, what you want is something put aside that's going to go on and grow into the next thing. So you think about it like that. If you're spending all that you're making from month to month, it's like a farmer that's putting themselves out of work all the time. I mean, think about what's happening right now, with the, I don't know if you can say the name of it, but that's put everybody out of work right now. And, yeah, exactly. And within 1 month, 2 months, some people are already desperate. We have to not leave ourselves so vulnerable. We need to have something set aside so that when stuff happens, because that's life, stuff happens, you got to plan for this stuff so that you give yourself a bit of breathing room to think about what is your next plan. So that's what falls into that. I've spoken a lot about that point. So coming back to the purpose of a budget and being able to allocate within that all of these different roles, you want money within your budget to cover that. So I'm going to use myself as an example of the idea of keeping the things that must be paid to a minimum. So those necessities, so that you have as much as possible free to do those things that are going to contribute towards wealth building. So having as little as possible going to the things that are short term. So currently, I am living off 50% of my income. 50% covers all the things that have to get covered. So we're talking housing, bills, food, the basic childcare. I have a 7-year-old. Those things fit within that, which means that the rest of that I can put towards other things. Now, it doesn't have to be 50% for you. It can be 70, it can be 80. It's about getting to the habit of putting something aside, having something different. So yes, absolutely, David, that's good. That's good. I'm so used to responding live when I do my live videos. but yeah, so it's about percentage. So when I coach people, I teach in terms of percentages because people have different incomes. So it's about the percentage. You don't want to have 90% sort of being well 100%. I have people that go over every month. They overspend every month. That is just not on. So
and that's how people get trapped in poverty.
Exactly. You cannot do that and build wealth. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So we're talking, short-term and long-term plans. You want to have as much of your income going towards the long-term plans. And I go into more detail in the free training in terms of the different categories. You can have that. Now, talking about sort of where we're currently at, the people that have a vision to build wealth, and let's say they're currently in a job. What are the habits that they have in that job to sort of prepare them for where they're going? I say you need to master the skills of your trade and be so irreplaceable. Like, be the best at what you can do, so that you are as irreplaceable as it's possible to be. Because we have a lot of people, and I see all the time, people just doing just enough so they don't get fired, and they're paid just enough so they don't quit. And that's like a toxic partnership to be in. It's just, that does not bring out the best in you. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for yourself, for your skills, the skills that you have. Nobody can take it away from you, which is what you've heard it saying, that if for some crazy reason we decided, right, let's split the wealth globally and let everybody have the same thing, I promise you, within a few years, the bulk of it will end up back with the same people. It's about what they know. So it's the skills. It's what you know. But money follows skills. It follows what you do. So if you're someone who loves your job and that's what you make, then be the best at it. Be the best at it so you make the most from it. Because yes, there is some level of financial independence that you can get working for someone. It's not, yes, the wealth, definitely, but the feeling of well-being as well. You say you're in a high vibration that attracts more and gets you to those high levels. They don't just turn up and punch in the time and there engage. And if you're in a job that you hate, maybe find something else. Life's too short for that stuff. Anyway, find something else. Okay, so that's for the people who love their job and they want to stay there. Personally, I think that if you have big goals, if you have big money visions that you want to have, I think there's only so much you can get to working for someone else. I think if you're not completely against it, I think having your own business is something that I would encourage everyone to at least look into it, because everybody has something that they either already know how to do or are interested in enough to learn how to do it. And I'd say take some time to sit down and find out what that is for you and brainstorm how you can monetize it. Because unfortunately, there is a feeling if someone's paying for you, there's only so far you can go. And like I said, if that's why you're happy, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you have other goals, I'd say definitely look into that. Look into what is it you know how to do, or you're interested in it enough to know how to do it, and then push through it. You use the money that you're making from your job currently, because I'm not telling you to up and leave your job tomorrow. You want to make sure you have enough to actually make that transition and have a good foundation in place, but look into it. The people who have gone on to do really well, and this is a journey that I'm on myself, it's the time after you've done the job for someone else, you have the time to put an hour to a day into your own dreams and your own vision and put some time into it and grow from there. So I say absolutely do it. You need your own stuff if you have the bigger goals. And I think this is the last part. I feel like I've been going on for a while, but the last set of things that I want to talk about is investment. And I know, Phrankleen, we briefly touched on this, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it scares a lot of people, and it doesn't need to be that scary. It doesn't need to be that scary. I mean, the first thing to get started is, well, you need to have the money in the first place. So going back to your money can have at least 4 jobs. You need to have money set aside that is going to be towards investment. Again, it's that principle of what do you already know about? So what are products that you use every day that you know about? Maybe start looking into that. Is that a company that you want to invest in? We have talked about land, real estate. That's something that's done really well for decades and decades. It's
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
don't know how to do it yourself, learn how to do it, or find someone who knows how to do it. And when I mean find someone who knows how to do it, not just someone who talks about it, someone who actually has the results, right, to show that they know how to do it and they can back that up. Because here's the thing, with working, there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only so much you can work. And if all your income is based on how much time you can put in, there's a limit. You
Yeah.
have to live. You got to sleep. You got to have time with
There's
your
always a
family.
cap. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you want to have your money working for you. Make your money like an employee. You are the boss. Employ your money. Have it doing stuff for you. That's what something like investment is going to do for you, so that you can make money while you sleep, so that you can have a life. So find something that you already know about it, or you can learn about it. It's about taking the time to look at, right, what's making a decision first of all, and then making the time to actually look at it and start. You don't have to know everything about it before you start, because a lot of these things, the more you do, the more you learn. So it's about
Yeah.
getting started. Investment does not have to be scary. If you have to start small, that's fine, and just see how it goes. We can't be vulnerable out here. There's only so much time in the day, and there's only so far you can go working for someone else. So yeah, I think those were the key things that I wanted to talk about. I hope that was sort of a good template to start with. And the last point that I was going to wrap up on is, when we hear stuff like this, we get fired up, we get excited. Sometimes the people around us might not be in that frame of mind. Doesn't make them bad people. It's just where they're at, and that's absolutely fine. So I have embraced, and from what I've learned, the idea of having different groups of friends for different things. You have friends that this is what you talk about with them. You have friends that are for um, personal growth or finance. You have friends that are for dancing. You have friends that are just for hanging about and chatting about
Yeah,
what, right?
yeah.
And that's fine. But you need to find people that are going to cheer you on for that. And if you have to not talk about certain stuff with certain people, that's absolutely fine. Because if they're not there, they're just not there. And it's fine. They'll get there when they want to get there. But you want people around you that at least you're working towards the same goal and learning from people that have the results to show for it. You're not going to get advice about, let's see, I don't know what example to use, but from someone who that's not even their lane. They don't have any results to show for that. It's just
Mm,
not very wise. So as you're hearing it and you're getting fired up, just be aware not everyone's going to be on that wavelength. That's fine. The world's a big place, we're all connected. You'll find people who are on that wavelength and let them support you and support each other, and you can absolutely get there. Yeah,
fantastic. Is that you done now?
I think those were the points. Yeah.
Great. Right. Before so guys and ladies, um we're going to move into questions and answer session. Okay, so when you put your questions on the screen, I can put your questions to Trust, and don't you just love a name, Trust? So
Yeah,
you
blame
can
my grandma for that.
so before you start putting up your questions now, but I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, go
Like I
for
was
it.
saying, you and I were saying behind the scenes before I hit on the live button, right?
Yeah.
I said one of the fundamental problems, it's a very big problem
Mm,
that I've spotted within the Black community, is the lack of knowledge when it
yeah.
comes to finance.
Hmm.
If you look at most African homes, the parents would do just about enough to push you to university, the conventional templates, like I call it,
Yeah. Hmm.
school. And for the parents that have done that, we give them credit. But it's never enough to just say, go to university, go and become a doctor, go and become a teacher, go and become a lawyer, whatever. It's all well and good. It's great to be a doctor because you'll be
Hmm.
a blessing to the society, all that
We
stuff.
need them. Yeah.
But,
Hmm.
but for the most part, when it comes to financial knowledge,
Hmm.
when it comes to financial education, being financially savvy, being financially disciplined, just some of the things you touched on.
Hmm.
If we go under each one of them like as a bullet point, and we go under a drop down list, we can
Yeah.
definitely widen on the topics and stuff. We're
Absolutely.
mindful of time. I get that because I have, and I use myself as an example, right?
Hmm.
If I talk about my journey, I'll say it, right? This is not to discredit my parents, but I have never had conversations about finance with my parents coming up.
Wow.
In other
Mm.
areas, let me say they did what they could in raising me as the best knew how to do it.
Yeah.
But hey man, listen, if you get £5, put X aside. This is what stocks is about. This is
Hmm.
what buying a parcel of land, or you can buy a farmland, you can do this. You can say you should save 50% of all these principles that we're going through. If you go
Hmm.
into the core of them, they've
Hmm.
existed for donkey years.
Oh yes,
But
absolutely.
knowledge is power. And
Mm.
I'm telling you, I have people in our community who, in their 40s, in their 50s, even men in their 60s,
Mm.
who will sit down and say, how did the time blow past? I wish I had known this. I'm sure you probably have heard that too.
Oh
I,
yeah, yeah,
I, I wish
absolutely.
I wish I had known that. I wish this. And it's such a vicious cycle. There
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
man that I met a while back during before this global palaver started,
Hmm.
and he watches my channel. So we're just talking on the pavement, and he just said, "Man, when it comes to finance, he's been in the UK. Imagine for 28 years of his life,
Wow.
and this
Mm.
man could barely count for anything. He's made a lot of bad decisions. He tried to go into property with some people, but he didn't even have a knowledge of the rudimentary understanding of property investment. He just kind of knew off the top that, oh, it would work. He was swindled. The property was stolen. All sorts of ghastly stories. Whereby the thing about finance is you build, 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 build. It takes long to save that money. One blunder, whoosh, everything goes all over again. And then that's when one uncle dies in Africa, you send money again, your children are going to university, on and on and on and on and on. So I suppose my question is, how do you think we can eliminate this vicious cycle within the Black community? Because I'm actually starting from the rudimentary understanding, so that, okay, let's say for us watching this now, we're a generation where, thank God for internet, we can watch ourselves in the States and watch me, you're where you are, we can use this platform. How can we begin to educate ourselves that it becomes a way of life, so that you get yourself to a level, you understand this, you are practicing investments, and you can put the same knowledge into your children? Because if you look at white folks, like we live abroad here, for those ones, and again, I'm talking from observation. I remember when I was in uni years ago, and I remember this girl, I would never forget her name, Anna Bedford, a white English girl. And at the time, because I was a few years older than them, and she was telling me about somewhere in Greenwich, how she has a 4-bedroom house to herself. And I remember we were sat in a Pizza Hut for a friend's birthday, and I was like, huh? A 4-bedroom house? How did you buy it? And what she said was, oh, my grandfather, had bought it when I was 2 years old. He bought it in my name. My dad also did this. So the long and short was, at the time, this girl in Greenwich part of London had 2 properties. I mean, you know what the value of properties are in London now.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
He had 2 properties. He had investments, and some of them you hear stuff like they're trying to get on the property ladder, but because of investments that the parents have put in place, it helps them. So when you compare them with their accountants, there's a huge difference. Whilst you are still struggling to look for a great job, your counterparts have already bought their first property.
Has income coming in, yeah. Wow,
and because of that behavioral pattern, because of that knowledge, they tend to do the same for their own children. Whilst, I'm sorry, some of our parents are busy being religious. People are going to try to kill me for this. I talk about it all the time.
No, Phrankleen, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle that I have seen. I have people in my family, extended family, very close, whereby uncles, aunties, and when we sit down, if we're not talking about some form of ill treatment at workplace and all that, the major topic is finance. And you see people moaning about bad financial decisions, or they haven't got a clue, and they're at the evening part of their lives. Some people, it's when they die, they're trying to get them buried, and then you realize they're in so much debt, credit cards, loans, everything is in red.
Gosh, so, oh, there's so much I want to say. There's so much I want to say. Where to start? So, I mean, first of all, I don't remember what the curriculum is like these days, but if only we could get it as part of the school curriculum, just in there, have it as part, just the basic foundations of putting something aside. How much difference would that make? If we can have that. The other thing, just coming on to your last point about family, parents, and moaning, is there is a lot of information right now. Yes, absolutely. The thing is, some people, you get used to the complaining and the moaning, and you have people that are all doing it with you, and nobody's getting to solution mode. Now what can we do? What can we do? And I think that's where the mindset and personal development side of things comes in. We have to start reading books. We have to start reading books, even if not just for the learning what to do. But
Yeah.
even if it's just to have the stories in your head challenged,
Mm.
have a different perspective, showing you that there's a different way you can be, so that the excuse of I can't do it, this is how it's always been, this is how my family is. Well, those people, they're just people like you. So we definitely have to start reading books and challenging our minds and getting into actually even believing that it's possible. I have spoken
Mm.
to people that just think they're just not the kind of person. And if that's what you think, don't bother. It's a
Mm.
non-starter. It's not going to happen. Going back to sort of the family side of things and your British classmate that you had, it's a completely different picture, isn't it? I mean, certainly in my case, not that I'm trying to string them out here on the internet, but it's like an unspoken rule where you are the one supporting your parents
Yeah.
rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
It's different,
Yeah.
and it's we just sort of accepted it. And but if you're coming from that mind frame where people are having kids because they're going to look after them when they're older, they're not
Oh,
even thinking about how can I set my child up, how can
yeah.
I make sure that they're going to be comfortable. And I think that sort of thinking has to change. And I know you've talked about it. One of your most popular videos, stop sending money back.
Yeah.
And it's that mindset. I'm not saying if you have old parents that are ill, don't support them, but it shouldn't be that sort of, that is the expectation. And us, this generation, as we're raising our kids, we can start thinking differently. Rather than what they can do for us, is how can we set them up? Because the white folks that you talked about, you have the money going past generation to generation. I was
Absolutely.
looking through this and different families, the Rothschilds and all the other names, they have passed it down. And when you come from that and you have that expectation, I mean, that's not to say some of them don't squander it,
Yeah.
and not everybody that says they have a house really has a house. I think if it's a property that you're living in and it's costing you money, I wouldn't necessarily call that an asset, but that's a good place to start. If you have a property that you have tenants in, now we're talking. Now that's the good stuff, and let's
Mm.
let's start thinking about that and start getting into that. So yeah, first of all, if we can somehow get it into schools, that would be fantastic. We can start doing things different. I have this pet peeve of mine, and I've had difficult conversations with my dad about this. When we have things like weddings, funerals, and you
Mm.
have people going into debt for that, you don't have it. What
Thank you.
is the point? What is the point? I know the outfits are great. I know the traditions are great. And if you can afford it, by all means, do it. But seriously, is it worth going into debt for? Is there not something else that you could do with that would have longer term benefits? I'm not knocking tradition, but if it's hurting you, maybe you might want to think about it. And
Yeah.
I don't know what that makes of me, my Nigerian cred, but it's, yeah, because
No,
I've
it
seen
makes
what it's
you.
done in my own
It makes
family.
you sensible. It makes you a sensible
So,
person because it's you see, and see these are the uncomfortable conversations where
yeah.
if you're talking, even if you're not on this platform, you're just sitting with some of our people, and the
Oh, they won't
moment they
hear it.
realize that you're
Mm.
thinking outside the box, don't get me wrong. When it comes to culture, maybe a wedding and people are dressing, and if you look at the tribes, it's always colorful, all the beads, the women's hair, the
It's
headgears,
great. It's great.
beautiful. It's
Mm.
visually appealing. But like you're saying, when I have to be financially reckless, get in debt because somebody wants
Hmm.
to get married,
Yeah.
like, yo, I'm not even going to be sharing your wife with you. So get into rent.
Yeah.
Nah, man,
Yeah.
you can keep
So
your
here's what I say, because here's the thing. people are going to get married, people are going to die, we know that this stuff happens, like the boiler
Yeah.
breaks down, stuff like that. You can plan for these things, you can have a fund set aside. So it's like when Christmas comes or New Year's, at the start of the year, I'm planning out, right, how much do I want to allocate to gifts and stuff like that, and I plan to save for it. And once that pot is gone, it's gone. That's
It's
it.
gone.
So
Good.
you can plan for it. It's not to say you can't have your parties anymore, but you have to plan it and put aside the money that's going to go towards that and stick to it. We're talking about your goals here. We're talking about the things that matter to you. Is that outfit, that wedding, is it worth, the goals, the legacy, your children? We gotta make better choices. Yeah,
Fantastic.
absolutely.
There's a question
Yeah.
from Joseph David. What is a better investment vehicle, stocks, or real estate?
Oh, so when you
Wait,
say vehicles, do you mean like selling them?
no, I think it means what's the better investment vehicle, stocks or real estate? What do you think?
Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So I would say it depends on one, what you know the most about, and or what you're most interested in. Now, over the sort of grand scheme of things, so if we're looking over 100, 200 years, the stock market is generally performed well. It depends as well on how much you want to invest and how quickly you want that money back. Okay. So it's a different thing if you're saving or if you're investing money that you're not going to need for 30, 40 years versus money that you want to be giving you turnover straight away. So if you want something that you want to be getting it quickly, then maybe real estate is the way to go, where you have a property, you have tenancy, and that they're paying you on a month-to-month basis. But if you have money that you don't mind having it sit there for a long period of time, and you want as little involvement as possible, because being a landlord can be quite something. So it depends on how much time as well you want to put into it. So it's a lot of different factors. It depends on what you have, what you're doing it for, and how much time investment you want to put into doing it. That's something to sit down, do a pros and cons list, and make sure you either find someone who knows what they're talking about before getting involved, or study it yourself, however long that takes. But start something. Don't stop with not deciding. Yeah.
Thank you for that. This one is for me. Phrankleen, the reality is that we have to ask these questions, but also how are we wired? Sadly, some people have it, others don't, and some people more. Can I just answer that, respond to that very quickly?
Go for it.
I get it, but you see, I think the people we're catering to here, particularly, are the average Joe blogs, okay? The everyday people like you and I. See, if somebody's already wealthy, believe me, and I'm not talking about a wealth that stemmed from maybe looting public funds. I've got nothing to say about that. We're not even referencing that.
Nope.
If somebody that worked, that broke their back, right, that toiled so hard to become wealthy, believe me, they know, like you said earlier, I love what Trust said earlier about rich people have plans for their money. Because but the poor man's perception is, oh, they are wealthy, you expect the reckless expenditure to follow just because, oh, they are wealthy. In fact, when you read books, when you consume materials, you'll understand that the rich people, they rely on the poor people's very poor decisions. They rely on the money to enrich themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
They really don't spend much of their own money. They know where to plug their money to get return.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
With it. So a classic example is this. I've lived in the UK for donkey years. A classic example is this. Watch this. Like cars that we drive, it's the same thing in the States. You can walk into a dealership. If you've got good credit, you can show that you got good income, blah blah blah. They do a credit check. I can drive away with the latest Audi Q7 2020. I take the keys, I'm flexing, I'm rolling down the road, right? Maybe that Audi, for argument's sake, it's going to cost me £700 monthly, right, to pay the dealership. Now that's an individual. A smart person, when over the years, when I started to understand certain things, how they work, years ago, if you had asked me the same question, I would have thought, oh yeah, let's go, man. Let's go to the dealership. I want to go get that BMW. Oh, it's £300 a month. That's nothing. Even though I'm dying underneath, but I want to flex on that BMW, right? I want people to see that, oh, Phrankleen, you're whipping that BM now, right? Cool. But the smart guys, you realize that I remember talking to this Asian guy. He had this bad boy M Sport, top of the range BMW. And I was checking on Google. I'm like, God damn, this guy is about £40,000. So we got talking, and I'm like, yo, your monthly payout for this car must be this. And he was laughing. And then he said, it's got nothing to do with me personally, because it's off the back of the business, the family business. It goes, we have about 6 cars, and it's all, that's why we've got accountants and stuff. It said, yeah, you see my brother, the latest Bentley and all that stuff. It goes, none of the cars is in our personal names.
Wow.
And I was, so I remember this guy then turned around and said, wait, are you stupid? You're going to be paying for this monthly? And he was like, So I laughed, but I felt stupid for a moment. Then I started checking, and I'm like, oh wow.
So there's so many ways, yeah.
From that brief conversation, I learned something that day. It was a light bulb moment, and I went to research online, and I realized that the rich, no,
they're not using their own money. No.
You can see them pull up in the latest Bentley. They have a business and all that. That Bentley is being paid for as part of the business expenditure, and they still pay themselves separately.
Yep.
So I'm like, wow. So he said, yeah, that's how you make your money last longer and go around. So you see the difference in that. Nobody's going to teach you this at uni.
Exactly. Which is a shame.
Nobody's going to tell you this. And that's just an example, right? And but you find a regular guy, I'm going somewhere, who works as a project manager, maybe earns £400 a day, works in the city of London, or £500 a day, and you get delusional. And you think, oh, yeah, it's nothing. I can pay for that Audi, £700 a day. I know somebody that gave a dealership. I witnessed this myself. He was trying to buy this Audi, and it gave a dealership about £13,000 in cash. And I remember I was telling him, I'm like, bro, on a car, imagine
that starts losing value the moment you drive it out.
But again, within our, you can only push so much when it comes to people's personal affairs, because as soon as you start doing that, they then change the conversation to you're jealous or you're not happy because. And I left it. That guy now, and this is not to discredit him or put him down, eventually, about 9 months later, the contract was meant to be a 2-year contract. Unfortunately, due to internal decisions, they pulled plugs on it. And for the next 4, 5, 6 months, he couldn't get back on another contract. And what happens is he was already here with debts and all sorts of outgoings, and then he was forced to return the car. A lot of things then start to downscale and stuff like that. The reason I'm sharing this is hopefully these might trigger somebody's thought process. I'm also learning these. So when you look at these examples, when you look at these stories, you realize that if we actually exist without financial knowledge, man, we are doing ourselves a major disservice. A major disservice, because you really don't know how. I got to understand that. Even your MPs here in the UK, the MPs are what work in the parliament with their £120,000 a year job, £90,000. They claim every expenses, every
Yep.
A £1 newspaper, they claim the expenses. Now, the average Joe Bloggs thinks, oh, he earns £90,000 a year. He should be able to buy his own newspaper. There is a system in place that allows him to claim expenses. What do you think he's going to do? But the average guy that knows nothing about finance, if I'm on £100,000 a year, I'm thinking to flex. I'm not thinking investment. Then you end up broke. This is why
it's that short-term view, isn't it? Yeah.
So So to finalize and to respond to this gentleman, Paul Robertson, right? I'm not going to use people that are already wealthy. We can't use them as a yardstick. When you go to African parties, you see certain people. First of all, I don't know how that person made their money. But you, the average person, just because you want to look fly in a dress, just because you want to flex, that's like me. I'm not gonna lie. Over the years, I did it a couple of times, but it's not my thing. When you go to for functions and you have to spray money,
Mm.
where I am right now,
Another
I
one
think
of our traditions.
I think it's reckless. It's not my thing. I've removed myself away from it. If I want to come to someone's function, your function, let's say you were getting married, you were having a birthday party, and you invited me, preferably I'll buy you a gift, a befitting gift. Whatever gift I decide, I'll bring you a gift. I'll bring myself, and we have a good time, right? And I give you the gift. We keep it moving. But to come and start doing that, why? Just my way. I just think it's reckless.
Yeah.
And the people that actually, maybe somebody who's got it. They can get away with that. Fair enough. But people that are broke, you live in the UK, you count your hourly wages, but you want to go to Nigeria for 2 weeks to go flex for Christmas, and then you go and flex, and then you come back, and then you have your rent, your mortgage, you have everything on your neck, and you go back to the vicious cycle of work. So does that really make sense? It doesn't make sense, man. So any more questions for
Yeah.
Trust, please?
If I could just jump in there as well about how we're wired.
Yes.
Yes, we all have our background. We all have lessons we didn't learn and things we didn't know, but we can change that now.
Yeah.
Like we can change the wiring. We can learn something different. That's why I focus on habit. How you're wired is a combination of things that you've always done, and those are your habits. You can get new
Right.
habits that you can start small until it becomes second nature. It becomes your new wiring, and you become. I am someone that saves 10% every month. I am someone that puts 20% aside every month. You can change the wiring and become somebody that does something different. It's not any woo-woo stuff. It's about what you do. It's about the habits, and they become part of you. So it's possible to change it as well.
Give me your questions, please. Somebody's asking, what is your financial training background? Is it the baby?
Yeah, good question. Okay. Yeah. People love to ask that stuff. And if you go back to what I was saying, if you want to learn something, you want to learn from someone that has done it. Piece of paper does not always translate to results. So I have experience as someone who has come from not having any, starting from absolutely nothing, going through some real crappy times, to being able to pull myself out of that, to learn what I need to know, to pay off debt that I needed to pay off, to get myself up to a point where if something happens, I don't have any income coming in for 6 months, 1 year, it's fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't want that, but it's you want somebody that knows how to do it, to show you how to do it, and that is my qualification. I know how to do it. I can show you how to do it.
Fantastic. I love that. This one's from Rollins Schofield. He says, for those already in debt, how can we work our way out when we end up paying credit card all year long?
That is a good
That
one.
credit
That
card
is
bill,
that is
it's
rough, isn't it? Yeah, it's rough. So actually, I am currently doing a challenge with some people on how to get debt free. So first of all, the number of people who don't know how much they owe in total is scary. So that's the first thing. How much is the total? How much do you have in total that you owe? Put that on paper. Is it different cards? Have it put together. Now there are so many different approaches so you can either consolidate it in one debt if it makes sense for you financially, because sometimes you have fees that it may not make sense for you, but yeah, that is there as an option. The other thing, you are going to have to find that money from what you currently earn. That's where the spending plan comes in. You want to, as part of your plan, decide how much of that is going to go towards it. Of course, you want to make your minimum payments. Someone says cut the cards up. Yeah, good.
yeah.
That's a good point as well. So You want to have that set aside how much is going to go towards those debt. There is, if you've made up head of the snowball, method of clearing debt. There's the avalanche. There's so many. Just pick one, stick to it. Have an amount set aside. I say I firmly believe in automating payments. You don't want to have it depending on whether you remember or if there's something left. Set up a standing order so that as soon as money comes in, money goes out. You don't have to think about it. It's going and it's paying it. And knowing why. Why do you want to be debt free? Because it's going to get hard sometimes. If you know why you want to do it, you have that payment set up. I like the snowball because you can see results quickly. You start with the smaller one, you have that cleared off, you move on to the next one, you get your first win of, yes, I can do this, you go on to the next one. But you need to plan it in. Decide you want to pay up, know how much it is in total, set aside what's in your budget that's going to go towards that, and have a standing order for that and attack that, and on and on and on. But if you have any other questions on that, I'm sure I've made a video about almost everything. While I go into more detail on sort of debt repayment.
I'm trying to post a link to your website. So you can go to Trust. If you look in the description of the video, you find the link, but I've posted it again now. I'm going to pin it to the screen.
Cool. Actually, the best place to find me, it's either on LinkedIn or my Facebook page. That's where I'm most active.
Right. The budgetfairy.co.uk. That's Trust's website. Okay. Any more questions? A few more questions and we call it a day. Any more questions, please? If there are no more questions, and let me see. I'm trying to look at the comments if I've missed any. Has anyone got any more questions, please?
We've had some really good ones. We've had some good tips as well. I'm rooting for you all. Seriously, I'm rooting for you. You can do it.
I have a mortgage. Okay, hold on. There's one here. Stephen Kato. I hope I've pronounced that properly. It says, I have a mortgage for 30 years. I have recently just seen a video on how I can pay. Oh, that's not a question. Sorry, my bad. That's not a question. It's just telling us.
No, but if that's true, that's fantastic. I mean, there's the whole FIRE movement, right?
Hold on. This one says, do you have advice for overdraft debt?
So do you mean when your account's gone into overdraft? I mean, debt is debt, whichever one it is. Debt is debt, whether it's credit card, overdraft. We want to have it paid off. If you have debt that is costing you interest, I see that, especially when it's not for something that's bringing any value, because sometimes debt can be good. If you have debt that's for business related and your business is covering that, that's one thing. If it's debt for clothes and shoes, no offense to them, but I don't think there's sensible reasons to go into that. We want to have that paid up, especially when it's accruing interest, because that's even more money that you're losing. So we want to pay it off in a similar way as you would pay off any debt. I don't know if that helps.
Yep. So yeah, that's I think that's it for today. Okay. Please get in touch with Trust. Look in my description. From my website, you also see details to her Facebook page. Okay. Put a name as it is on the screen in Facebook. You'll definitely find a page, Trust Orlu-orlu, right? As it's spelled.
That's the one.
Yeah, you find out on Facebook, and I'm sure she'll be able to help you and tell you more about the financial expertise and services she provides. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the couple of super chat donations. I appreciate your time, Trust. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Like I said, I will put the free training as well, sort of this step-by-step putting a budget together. I'll put that as a comment so people can access that if they want to.
Fantastic. Thank you. If you want to get in touch with me, look in the description below. foodchannel1960@gmail.com. If you have any of your stories, crazy stories you'd like me to talk about on my channel, get in touch with me. If you have crazy families driving you nuts, let me know. If you have any expertise you'd like, people within the Black community to be blessed and informed about investment in Africa, how to add value to ourselves. If you live in the West, get in touch with me. All right, it's been your boy Phrankleen. If you want to support my channel, there is a link in the description for my Patreon account, patreon.com/Phrankleen. Okay, every little helps, or my PayPal link. So yeah, that's me done. Thank you, Trust. Appreciate
Well done,
you.
Phrankleen. You're doing a great job. Yeah. Good to be here.
All right.
All
Next
right.
one. Bye
Bye-bye.
now. Let me broadcast.